shape-shifting, color-shaking, dancing, singing, dazzling, sex-crazed transformers. The fabled birds of paradise. Cut off from the modern world, virtually unknown, until two modern-day explorers set out on a decade-long quest.
You have to try to outsmart them.
If we succeed at getting the moment of transformation, that's going to be the Holy Grail.
A quest to find and photograph all 39 species of these spectacular creatures.
Kind of a narrow spot to get through here. Whoa.
And to capture some never-before-seen firsts for science.
No way. Oh.
National Geographic photographer Tim Lehman and Cornell University ornithologist Ed Scholes have traveled the jungles of New Guinea for nearly a decade. It's an assignment turned obsession, a search for one of nature's holy grails, images of every species of this flamboyant family of birds. Iridescent feathers, outlandish shapes, precision choreography, extreme ornamentation, cacophonous flapping. Male birds of paradise whose adaptations have only one purpose: to attract a mate. New Guinea, where birds of paradise live, is one of the most remote places on Earth. Tim and Ed have taken over 20 expeditions to more than 50 field sites, suffered countless days in the rain-soaked jungle, and one burst appendix. They've survived it all, plus dubious flights, perilous boat rides, grueling hikes,
Oh, here we go left.
and the jungle, pulsing with poisonous life.
You gotta keep your eye out for them. So when you're bashing through the forest, you gotta pay attention or you might end up with one of these on your face.
They've filmed a lot of birds, but they still have a few adventures left on their Birds of Paradise bucket list. Their first target, the Wanz's Parodia, is a creature that transforms from bird to ballerina in the blink of an eye. They live way up in the Sarawagad Mountains.
Getting into this location has turned into a bit of a transportation nightmare in the last few days.
The plane that we were counting on flying in on had a small incident at an airstrip and had a crash landing.
So we decided to go with a helicopter option.
When they finally do take to the air, they'll be heading for a landing pad they're not even sure exists.
So we have no idea whether it's even a helipad that a helicopter can land on.
They can only safely fly in clear weather.
The mountains here are really steep. You know, some of these ridges are, over 6,000 feet. No pilot in Papua New Guinea flies when you can't see.
Fortunately, the next day breaks clear. They're flying into one of the least explored places on Earth. From the air, there isn't a road in sight.
Wow, what a day compared to yesterday.
Birds of paradise are also cut off from the world. The definitive field guides have countless entries that read simply unknown. Tim and Ed are filling in the blanks.
It's not so much just being the first, but just the fact that it hasn't been done. This group of birds hadn't been documented in the wild.
The biological wonder of the world, right? It's like, why the Great Pyramids? Why Machu Picchu? It's like the avian equivalent of looking at animal life on another planet.
Or perhaps from many planets, each species more incredible than the next. Parodia are famous for the intricacy of their dancing. Their choreography is part river dance, part OCD. This one, Corolla's parodia, draws an endless figure eight in the air. Strange, but the females seem to like it. Deciphering what the male's behavior means to the females is like learning another language. This mission is all about cracking the code of the Wanz's display.
Real excited to be back to see this species of parodia. I spent so many years studying them, and it's nice to be back. They're kind of like old friends for me.
On one of these ridges is a field camp Tim and Ed will call home for the next 3 weeks. If they can land.
Roy, we're just looking for a cut clearing on a ridge. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully they pick up a helipad for us. Yeah. It is the moment of truth.
Yeah, really.
Hope. Let's hope. Let's hope.
I see smoke dead ahead on the ridge, right there.
You can see the bamboo there.
Yes.
What do you think, Roy?
Yeah, no problem. Barely a challenge.
That's what we like to hear. We got a helicopter only a sat phone call away, and a few $1,000.
Parodia territory at last.
The parodia is one of the quintessential shape-shifting species.
When the male displays, he tucks his wings away and pops out specialized breast feathers.
They're kind of funny and comical to watch. You can't help but to think of them as like a little person in the forest wearing a skirt, dancing around.
There are 5 species of parodia, and Tim and Ed have photographed them all. But this time, they want to change it up. They're trying to film a male parodia from above, from the perspective of the females, who are the arbiters of what makes a good display. Ed thinks the aerial view will be very different from anything they've ever seen.
The way the females look at them is from above looking down. So the females see this really distinct circular shape that's made by the skirt. All right, this is the camp. They've already got the old tarp up.
Ed's command of the local language, Pidgin, comes in handy.
Katim nupla diwai na workim nupla frame.
As their porters make camp, they strike out to scout display sites.
There was a couple of old ones right over here in this thicket. That's what I first noticed. I think it's here. There's like a sinkhole. And this one's a fresh one, because look, it's got fresh bird poop. Or, as they say in Pidgin, peck peck.
This bare patch is the male's display territory. It's called a court. Parodia are neat freaks, keeping their courts spotless and clear. So, Ed sets up a tiny camera, then scatters some leaves. It's his sneaky way of telling if the males are using this site.
It really drives him crazy to have those leaves down there. They're very fastidious. So when he comes by here and sees those, he won't be able to help himself. He'll come right down and toss them all off the court.
Holy cow. You know, he almost gets like the looking down view from up here. Yeah.
If the site proves to be active, it's perfect for the overhead shot.
This distance is very safe for parodias. I mean, I think that's the wide enough view right there if we just clean out that vine.
Yeah, this one's totally doable.
Capturing the female perspective on film would be a scientific breakthrough and a dream come true for Ed.
To succeed in especially getting the moment of transformation, that's going to be the holy grail.
They check the spy camera, and sure enough, it doesn't take long for the parodia to arrive.
That's the leaf we put down. Toss it. Yeah, he's coming like right up next to the GoPro.
He's so intent on cleaning up, he doesn't even notice the camera.
No way. Oh, we actually got an awesome GoPro shot of a Parodia. That's hilarious. I don't know if I can believe that word. You totally didn't care at all.
Whoa, this guy's big.
That tail is long.
That tail's long. It's like a huge bird. I forget how much bigger
This is a lot
this
bigger.
Parodia is than some of the others.
Tim plans to position 3 synchronized cameras around the display area. Ed will control 2 from his laptop, while Tim shoots the 3rd from a hidden vantage point.
I just need to get a bunch of bush rope, start lashing together a ladder.
Thankfully, the forest itself is as good as a hardware store. Ed has been studying Parodia displays for years. Their dances are the most complex of any bird of paradise, and he knows every move they make.
In pretty much an instant, he'll do a bow, and he basically then fluffs out those long feathers of the breast and flanks, and that's when he forms them around his body. They go back behind his back and cover his wings. And when he comes up, and he's taken these 3 long head wires from each side, and as he starts walking forward with his skirt out, he's shaking them back and forth, waving them in front of his head, and then he begins waggling his neck and head back and forth like that. None of it really makes sense unless we can interpret it from the perspective that the females are seeing it.
For birds of paradise, the females are the evolutionary decision makers.
It's 12:15. We're getting this all set up during this sort of lull in the middle of the day. So if the bird starts coming back for some afternoon activity, we're ready to go.
It's a complicated rig.
Perfect Ethernet hiding material.
Custom-built cables, specialized software and electronics,
All right, I'm going back to set up the computer.
and none of it very jungle-friendly.
Slippery. Great. All right, so it's working. The cameras are on, and I think we're in business.
Tim settles into his blind, hoping their camera-ready Parodia will make another appearance.
They seem to be everywhere, but on the court where we need them.
Well, I'm still sitting here in my blind. I think I'm gonna call it quits pretty soon.
Hey, it's getting pretty dark over here. I think we're gonna start backing up. Okay, let me back this up. All right. Calling it quits.
Well, too much good luck to get it all as we're saying.
Yeah. That's a bit too much indeed.
Early the next morning, they're back at it.
I had to stop by Starbucks on my way back to work.
Miraculously, the Parodia also shows up for the morning shift.
Yeah, it's great. It's going to be fun to review this. Yeah, great. All right. Yeah, I got one.
The question is, were all 3 cameras rolling?
All right, moment of truth here. Looking left, looking right. Bow. Oh, yeah, his tail. Okay, he's coming out in the ballerina, turning it around.
You have his wires. And then
And he goes under there.
wow, that flash is amazing.
It is amazing.
This is even bigger than Ed expected.
Wow. You know what? You can even see the flash. So he's got this other ornament on the back of his head that you almost never see, and it flashes right on the opposite side. Oh, look, yes, he looks so different. That's nice.
He knew the view from up top would be different, but these iridescent flashes are a shock. It's like the male is sending out secret love messages that only the female above him can see.
And usually, we always filmed it from the line of the ground, so that flashing really is designed to face upward to flash to the females. So now that we're really looking down on that time, we're just really seeing that flash, flash. That's just really cool to see it from different angles.
With all three cameras synced up, they can see the top-down shot in context.
Nice. Man, those head wires look great. He kind of does that exaggerated
flash. Yeah, it's like so cool. With blue and yellow.
Yeah. This perspective, you're kind of getting both colors at once. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. Nice work.
It's the unknown that makes birds of paradise so fascinating. Tim and Ed were the first to discover that one species, the Arfac astrapia, performs its displays upside down.
That's as close as you get to aha moments in science anymore.
And the Arfac isn't the only one to turn the mating dance on its head. The bluebird of paradise, the redbird of paradise, and the emperor. This footage of the emperor display is the first ever recorded. But the birds rarely make it easy. Ed once spent 80 hours waiting for just 90 seconds of magnificent rifle bird display. Tim has climbed nearly 150 trees over the years. His highest perch was 50 meters in the air. Getting to it was like climbing a 15-story building. Sometimes he gets room service for lunch.
We got the full Indonesian lunch here. We got rice, we got vegetables, we got noodles. Quite a lunch for up in a tree, huh?
But the next bird on their list could be even more challenging.
So, we good to go?
Seems like it.
Man, it's pouring, huh?
To reach it, Tim and Ed are heading out to sea. They're now on the trail of the rare Goldie's bird of paradise. Goldies have an incredibly limited range. They only exist on two tiny islands off the eastern coast of New Guinea.
The genus Paradisea. These are the ones that are on the flag and have the most sought-after plumes for human interest, especially New Guinea culture.
The plume trade impacted many bird of paradise species at the turn of the century, but the striking feathers of the genus Paradisea were particularly prized. Their numbers have rebounded since then, but they're still hard to find.
All right, see if I can get on this sucker without falling in. It's gonna be wet. It's like the wettest start to an expedition that we've ever had.
Goldie's bird of paradise display in the canopy. Tim will have to build himself a camouflage blind high in a tree. He's used the technique before and filmed himself doing it.
This blob of camouflage cloth here is the blind that I have set up in the top of the tree at the Lesser Bird of Paradise display site. Birds display just over there on that other tree. Well, I'm back in my blind at the Lesser Bird of Paradise tree. This is my 7th morning up here. Gonna give it one more try.
Persistence eventually paid off.
The birds are starting to arrive. Got a male here.
Tim and Ed also had success in the canopy with the greater bird of paradise, using a multi-camera rig.
This is the main display perch, and there's my blind over there. And right here is my leaf camera. Put a full SLR here inside these leaves. All right, let's hope this works.
Tim monitored the leaf cam with his laptop while he shot with a second camera from the blind.
All right, so we are good to go. Now we just need the birds.
First, the males show up and ruffle their plumes to attract the females. Once the ladies get there, the males get really excited.
It's actually working. It's kind of unbelievable.
This is called the flower pose. If the female likes what she sees, she'll stick around for some feather tickling and eventually mating. The innovative leaf cam captures a never-before-seen perspective of the mating ritual. This time, they're hoping to combine all of their successful tactics. They need to get their cameras up in the canopy to capture the experience of a female goldies. But first, they have to reach them.
They're heading into some dark weather over there.
As we came out of the mouth of the bay, it just kept getting choppier and choppier. So now we were in pretty much serious downpour rain as well as rough seas.
This passage to the goldies' home, Ferguson Island, is notoriously deadly. They've got to cross the open strait, motor between the islands and around the tip of Ferguson, then hike inland to a tiny village that will be their home base. Scouting reports from the island have confirmed that the birds are there.
So we're not going to have to spend any time when we first get there searching for the birds and trying to find the display tree.
It's legendarily inconvenient to work in New Guinea. But the same impenetrable jungles, far-flung islands, and extreme elevations that make passage nearly impossible are also what has given rise to these otherworldly creatures. Little Jurassic Parks, pocket environments cut off from each other and the outside, create fertile ground for small populations of birds to evolve extraordinary characteristics.
Hey, we made it.
They've survived the passage, but there's still a rough road ahead. Their guide, local conservationist David Mitchell, returns from scouting the inland trail with bad news.
Most of the water is up to about here on what's the walking track.
So what does that mean about the forest around where the birds of paradise are? Is it going to be flooded there?
Flooded, yes, it's flooded, but give it two days, it might go down.
Great.
Sorry.
We have to like camp here on the beach or something. Stay here.
What do we do? Just wait for it to go down?
Well, it's not really practical to carry all of our gear to the flooded village through neck-deep water. I mean, that's not going to work either.
Yeah,
Go over there and look at it.
come and have a look.
Yeah. I don't believe this.
Yeah. The rain finally stops, but now we can't go anywhere because of the flood.
Oh, gosh.
With no time to waste and no way to work without their gear, Tim and Ed set off in search of another route.
Getting deeper again?
Yeah.
The local villagers eagerly pitch in, cutting a new path through the jungle.
It's like a universal in New Guinea. Wherever you go, it's always the kids and girls carrying your stuff. You don't look so tough next to a, 12-year-old girl carrying your big bag for you. Now we need a good downpour.
At long last, they reach the village.
Here we are. Right.
The Goldies live in the forest nearby.
Hello. How are you?
Patch of forest where the birds are is very close.
They're anxious to see the tree where the Goldies display.
Hey, slippery mud right there.
That's the Goldie. Isn't that awesome?
This could be a quick trip to Foot Rock.
In the flooded forest, all sorts of creatures are scrambling to stay dry. Some, like this spiny orb weaver, are as colorful as a bird of paradise.
I'm trying to remember, where's the tree that they displayed in?
I don't think they use it anymore.
Why?
Because some trees close by, they fell down.
But
He hasn't found where they've gone to now.
so where are they now? I mean, we hear one there, but do you...
They spread out. They spread out. I think they just new one where they used to play.
So we have to find their new place. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Turns out their advance intel wasn't as accurate as they'd hoped.
So our supposed scouting effort was clearly a big failure. As if the rain and the seas and the floods weren't enough. Had we known, I think it would have changed the equation quite a bit.
Now they'll have to stake out this part of the forest to find the tree where the Goldies display.
It sounds more like what they do before they start displaying. You know, they do that chatter.
That's all
And then they would go, yeah, they would jump right into it.
Well, that sounds a little good.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of duetting.
That was a drunk bird of paradise. Doing a polka.
The males sing a duet to draw in the females. The birds are around, but not settled in any specific tree.
It's all just about listening to them, hearing the sounds that they only make when they're displaying, which are very distinctive, and then narrowing on that sight. So,
Unfortunately, the right spot for a female is not always right for the cameraman.
Forest is dense, and sometimes there's no good views, so that's the tricky part.
The next morning, they managed to find an active tree.
you see how the tree goes up and it's got this fork in it? It's kind of like an open gap of a bunch of little jungle gym-like sticks. That's where the birds are.
There's no place up there to build a blind, so they have to adjust their plan.
The main approach is going to be to try to use these remote control cameras. So I'm going to climb up in the tree. I'm going to rig up this camera hidden with also a layer of leaves over this and try to hide it, in the next tree closest to the display site. And then we'll be able to run these cables down to the ground and shoot with a remote control setup from our laptops. And we think it's going to be a natural history filmmaking first to film birds of paradise like this up in the canopy.
They just need to turn this pile of gear into a working camera system.
This goes to that. So this is going to be your number 2 laptop connection.
Hey, Tim, there's one of those big millipedes going right by.
Yeah.
Though not a biter. The millipede can secrete a caustic acid that causes a painful burn.
I'm going to wait so that if he decides to spray his chemicals, he'll hit my clothes instead of my leg. Hey, I'm going to get rid of this dude. I think we're about ready for this test.
All right, I am seeing 2 cameras. Now we need a dancing bird. Here we go. I'm gonna do my best imitation of a Goldie's bird of paradise. All right, you working?
Cut. Okay. There he comes.
All right, look at that guy. I'm pretty sure he'll be successful.
All right, it worked.
Should have my red shirt on.
All right, now we gotta rig it up in a tree.
The Goldie's display site is 30 meters up.
Oh, you had it, but I think you hit a leaf.
Yeah, I hit a branch. It went right over the right spot, but then it bounced back off of
A leaf.
a branch.
Tim, Moses was saying that's a softwood, so it's not very strong and the branch is easy to break.
Okay. So, if I go over one of the biggest branches, should be all right, yeah?
What do you think, Moses? You think Tim's too heavy or?
That's right.
You don't think it'll support him, eh?
Yeah.
He said this is a softwood, so he's just
Really?
having reservations when he saw you putting an arrow up in it.
How soft is softwood? How much?
Well, I think I'll pull a rope up and see how strong it is. It's good to be careful.
We could put some double weight on the rope and just see how much it bends and...
See if the whole thing breaks off. All right, here goes. A little short. All right, got it in the right spot.
The rope is secure. It's time to see if it will hold Tim's weight.
Okay. All right, I'm at the level now.
Yeah?
It is pretty light wood.
Is it gonna be all right?
As long as I stay in the middle. And put a loop in the rope and clipped it in. So if the whole top of the tree where I'm at actually cracks and bends over, my rope actually will still keep me from hitting the ground. It still would be a nasty fall, but it would be better than hitting the ground.
With the nearest hospital 2 days' journey away, safety is paramount.
How's the view of the branch? Can you see it pretty easily?
I got a perfectly clear view and it's 2 meters away.
2.
That's gonna be awesome. Oh, my feet, this is not gonna be comfortable up here.
As Tim rushes to get the cameras in place, the Goldies start revving up for a display.
Call to action. That means it's time to get your groove on. It's like the guy standing in front of the mirror going...
For the males of most species of birds of paradise, promiscuity is a full-time job. They flirt and flirt to get the female's attention.
The males would mate repeatedly with the same females throughout the course of the display session. Would mate with multiple females, would mate with the same females repeatedly over multiple days or weeks. So yeah, they're not very discriminating about who and how many. It's pretty much up to the female.
Which is why it's critical to see what the females see, how they decide who's worthy.
All right, I'm up here in the canopy by the Goldie's Bird of Paradise tree, and here are my 2 remote control cameras, number 1 and number 2.
It's taken 3 hours for Tim to perfectly position the cameras.
My legs are starting to get gripped up from just holding these weird positions for too long. I need a break.
Unable to rest on any of the fragile branches, Tim has got to get down before his legs give out.
Kind of a narrow spot to get through here.
tiring up there.
Birds are calling just behind us, just above, back over here. So they're only about 25 meters away. But maybe they're a little spooked by my cameras up there. We're not sure.
The digital trap is laid, but no one's biting.
Come on in, boy. The water's warm. Kind of closer. They're up higher. If we had a stuffed female bird of paradise, stuck her up there, they would be down there in a second.
Unintentionally, Ed tries to call them in himself.
That's the most ridiculous water bottle.
I don't know what to do about it. There's a lot of waiting in this business. Oh, man.
I mean, they're definitely there when they come around, but they're just not in the right tree.
Come on, dudes, come on.
But today is not going to be the day.
It's starting to rain.
Shutting down.
I believe they're coming so close that when it's getting dark and I have to go up and get the cameras down because it's also starting to rain. And now they're like right here.
They can't film at night, and the cameras aren't waterproof. So day one on Ferguson is a bust.
Let's just hope we get the payoff moment to go with all the misery and suffering.
Next morning, they're back before dawn.
All right. We're going to try to be really quiet. We think the birds are sleeping very close to the tree here. So we're just going to try to sneak up there, set up the cameras, get back down as fast as I can.
As if the softwood isn't dangerous enough, Tim's climbing in total darkness. And the tree is soaked and slippery.
All right, so I'm gonna do a quick cable check here. Make sure the rats didn't chew the cable overnight, which would be a big problem. Rodents love this rubbery wire. Tree rats, the bane of every ornithologist.
All right. 5:28. All right, so I'm right on schedule. I made it back down before 5:30.
Okay, good job.
Yeah. Well, now we just got to sit tight and wait for like an hour for it to get light. They haven't come to the display site yet. You know, it was raining all night, and it's been a really wet and kind of drippy morning, so we hope that that's the reason that they're not being active and displaying this morning, but we don't know. It's just kind of a waiting game. It's getting temptingly close now, but I just don't think they're buying it.
The Goldies seem to be avoiding the rig tree.
You know, it's been like 2 good mornings now, and they haven't come, so pretty sure that having those cameras up there close to the display site is putting them off a bit. So we're going to have to try something different.
Frustrated by the Goldies' lack of cooperation, Tim and Ed head off in search of a different bird they've been hearing.
Manicode's calling nearby, so I'm going to try to get that on video. Hey, which one do you want to chase? There's one over here now, too.
Let's go back towards the big fig tree.
Curl-crested manicodes have a spectacular call.
Sounds like a UFO landing.
They're right here. But we're on the wrong side of the sun.
The manicode is a throwback species. It looks more similar to the ancient crow-like ancestor of all birds of paradise than it does to its flamboyant modern-day cousins. Manicodes are quaintly monogamous, They don't need fancy feathers to convince a female to mate with them, like the males of other species.
Somewhere along the way, they made the shift from being monogamous to polygynous, and then things just went crazy with sexual selection.
Unlike natural selection, which weeds out the weak, sexual selection ensures the survival of the male traits the female finds most attractive. When a female bird of paradise selects a male to mate with, she is endorsing his assets, making sure those genes will live on.
The more extreme your preference is for certain kinds of behaviors or ornaments, the more extreme those traits are in the offspring of the males that have them. So because of that, the female's behavior of spending time watching males and mating is sort of equally as obnoxious and extreme and bizarre as what the males are doing themselves.
Plentiful food and few predators free up male birds of paradise to devote most of their energy to mating. The choosy females only mate with the sexiest males. But every encounter starts with an audition.
They've created their destiny of spending inordinate number of hours watching the very males that their ancestors have created through sexual selection.
The Manicodes never made the leap to polygamy, but that doesn't mean they're without sex appeal. For them, it's an oral thing. Ed records a male's call and plays it back to fool a bird into revealing its position.
There they are. Where'd I go? Right there. Is that him right there? He's low in there somewhere. That's it. Just behind the tree. Right in the sunlight. Yeah. You can really see his throat moving now.
This is a bird that has that really crazy, like, windy trachea on its throat there that it's using to make that crazy call.
This is an unexpected but important catch.
This is a cool behavior, but nobody's documented the postures that these guys do while they're calling.
Better than what we did with Goldies this morning.
Taking the Manicodes as a good sign, Tim and Ed head back to the Goldies.
Oh yeah, there's a bird really close.
They've spotted two males displaying on a branch about 50 meters from the rigged tree. This is what they've been waiting for. The females have box seats for the performance.
There he goes. And now he made it. So, at least one mating.
Just got a mating on film.
An eternity of foreplay leads up to a hit-and-run transfer of sperm.
So they did the whole thing. I got the mating and everything. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there's just one stick that, when the two males are there, it's supposed to be like that. I don't like that branch.
Now if they can just get a display with their leaf cam.
Coffee's on. It's pretty good. We got our Papua New Guinea coffee with a bird of paradise on the front there. Can't go without my little broken heart mug.
Before Tim climbs up to rig the remote camera, he attempts an aerial extraction.
Oh, no, that was a bad one. Oh! Yes, I think that's it. Oh. I guess one of those softwood trees. Well, the offending branch is no more.
All right, I gotta go up. Here's the view of the canopy camera. It's gonna be looking out on that tree over there, and hopefully the birds will come, do a little displaying, and we'll get the canopy perspective. Wow, this is working great. Now the birds will just come. All right, I'm gonna get my big lens set up. Got a small tree in my way. They're starting to get excited. He's there. Are you rolling in? Boy, they're coming in fast. There he is, there he is. Awesome.
2 males, 2 females.
First lead game footage of goalies. All right, we'll take it, we'll take it. There he goes.
Before they leave the island, Tim reveals their groundbreaking shots for the first time.
This is a rapid-fire sequence.
The unique leaf cam perspective exposes previously unknown behavior. The females seem to be mesmerized by the male's red feathers. And during every display, the males brush their tail wires and plumes against the female's breast.
All right, well, cheers.
Cheers to good day.
Tim and Ed have accomplished many firsts, and this last expedition is no exception. The first documented curl-crested manicoe display, the first leaf cam footage of goldies, the first Parodia female perspective shot, and over nearly a decade, the first photographs of every species of bird of paradise.
It's both sort of the most exciting project I've ever worked on. It's also the most frustrating project I've ever worked on.
It's one thing to see a bird of paradise and think, oh, it's beautiful plumes and it's a neat bird. But it's mind-blowing when you really see it in context of what they're doing and how it evolved.